So I'm going to try it this way. Since Facebook doesn't want to work with the live video, I'm going to make the video and then post it to Facebook. Hopefully this works. Alright, right here is thread that is actually made for making coats or heavy materials such as, well, fur. Because it's strong enough thread, it actually is what is holding the fursuit right there and hanging in the door together. Okay. See if I can get this without getting everything else on it. So, the unfortunate part about this stuff is it's really thick and it barely fits through the itty bitty hole on that needle. You can't even see the hole because it won't focus. Focus! Focus! Well, there it is. You see the hole right there. Oh, now it's gone. Focus on it, you stupid camera. It's there. Okay. So in order to thread it, obviously, you have to do stuff like that. Alright. The amount of thread I use is about that much. It's about an arm length and a half. I like these spools. The old days you had a different type of locking. Holds it pretty good. Therefore, if that stupid cat decides to get that spool, it doesn't unspool the entire thing of thread. So, as you can tell, I'm threading the needle. Now I've got to put 2 layers into that hole, which is not easy to do unless you do it a specific way. That's why I like these things. Needle threaders, worth the money for them. Considering you don't usually get them unless you buy a sewing kit. I don't know many places that sells those things individually. Which, by the way, if you hear the video in the background, or the sound in the background, that is Hellboy 2 I'm listening to. Partially watching as well. Okay, so I should probably no. What I did here is I folded the thread in half to thread the needle. This guarantees the needle stays on the thread, and it also makes it that much stronger if you don't know already on the threading. Okay. Then you take these 2 ends and you wrap it around your finger like this. Okay. And fish the end through the loop, and you make a knot out of it. To save as much thread as possible, pull it to the outside as far as you can without pulling it off the thing, off the end. Now I cut just past the knot. Okay, so there's no extra thread hanging there. Now the needle is threaded. I grab my 2 pieces. These 2 are getting sewed together. This piece is getting sewed into the center of this. It's going to be basically sitting right here. Okay. I made the green a little larger than the blue. I did that because I need something else. I'm going to cut this off later once it's all set in right. You start it. It's easier to start on the end. Put it through both pieces, obviously. Pull it through. Take the needle and you fish it between the two pieces of thread, like this. It won't focus on it, but if you look, the thread is, you know, like that. And you pull it through, pull it tight, then you do this. There's two ways to do this stitch. One is to go ahead and push it through. Okay. Take this end, wrap it around. When I start it, I actually wrap it twice. That ties the knot at the beginning. A sewing machine, when it does it, you want to overlap the stitches to tie it. With hand stitching, this is what I generally do. I just grab it, wrap it around my finger, hand, put it through, and pull it. As I'm pulling it out, it ties that knot right there automatically. That creates the effect of what it looks like, a bridge, basically. Angle the camera so you can see it better. Hand stitching, the seam allowance is a whole lot smaller. And you can also keep the fur out of the edge. When I stitch by hand, I go 1 inch. Every 1 inch, I tie it. I do a double loop on the end before I pull the needle all the way through, because that makes it so it stays tight. This method is how you would fix your fursuit. If you get a tear in your fursuit, you can use this same stitch to, you know, stitch it back together. Okay. It takes some time. As you can tell, wrap it around the needle. Uh-oh. Generally, this happens. The thread is now pulling the strings of the fur into the hole where you poked it through. So you got to pull it out before you pull it tight. If you pull it tight and it's thread and the fur is in there, it creates issues with the thread. See. This is about 1 inch, so I'm going to go ahead and tie it off here. You take it and you wrap the needle twice. See how it's wrapping it? Let's give it more room. Wrap it twice. Hold it with your thumb, just like that, and pull the thread through. And of course, it's going to pull the stuff, the fur, into the hole as well. Because why not? And it's tying itself in a knot. You just grab one side of it and pull it. Doing this makes it tighter. There. I'm trying not to pull the fur out of the pieces, because I kind of need these. This is by far easier because you only have to worry about other things. The only issue I hate about fur is it's really hard to work with. But it being this hard to work with makes it more of a pride and joy when you're done with it. It also gets all over the place. If you have any jackets that have this type of material, take it out of the room because the fur gets all over everything when you're cutting it. Right, it's pulling it in again. Get off that needle. The smaller the pieces, it's a little easier to work with, but it's also tougher to deal with due to the size. I'm going to, right here, because I need to change directions, I'm going to tie it off. Tie that off. Now I'm going to pull the corner up. Okay. I'm going to go through here. Wrap it twice because it's a new side. Pull it tight. Stitching, you're doing about, I don't know, 20 stitches per inch, especially with this type of fur. If you're using less quality furs, the closer the stitches need to be, because then you'll see the stitches anyway. This fur was purchased from fabric.com. It's high quality fur. Unfortunately, fur from places such as Joann's Fabric or Hobby Lobby, sometimes you'll find lower quality fur. We're going to do one more stitch and then we're going to tie it off again. Wrap it around the needle twice. Pull the needle through. Unfortunately, it's trying to do it again. Pull tight. Trying to get some of this fur out of there. Wonder whose car that is now. I don't know. I know it's not my car. Sounds close. I don't think my car horn sounds like that. It's definitely not my car. It doesn't turn off on its own. When that alarm goes off, it goes off and stays going off. Come on, thread. Sometimes it just does not want to cooperate here. Looks like I'm going to have just the right amount of thread for this piece. Every once in a while it twists. That's why it doesn't cooperate. This stitch is commonly seen in places such as hospitals when you get stitches in your skin to stitch up your cuts and crap. This is the same stitch almost. It's one of the stitches that they will use because it holds really tight. This is the last one for that side, so I'm going to do a double knot here. When I get to the end, before I cut it, I tie it off at least twice, because that guarantees the strength of the stitch. And this needle is actually not a very sharp needle, so when you shove it through the material and poke it into your finger, it doesn't actually hurt because it's not actually going in very far. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and cut the thread as close to the knot as possible without cutting it. That's how much thread is still left. Now, we got number one. Oops. I take my brush and brush the fur in the direction that it needs to go. Obviously, the same direction that you want. Sewed it together. This is why I love that I have some type of fingernails. And as you can tell from the front, you got green and blue. Here's the stitching. If you see, it looks like a, well, you say a bridge of thread. Okay, and it's actually pretty strong. these stitches will hold. Okay? That is how you do that. Let's see, get some of that fur off of me. This piece is actually going to be found right here. When I sew it on, it's going to be right there when it's sewed onto this portion of the tail. I do these ones first because they're the toughest to do. There's 1, 2, 3. These 3 are this type of a stripes. As you can tell, now if you notice on this one here that's already done, I did not cut along this line. Okay, the reason why I didn't not cut along that line was so I could make these stitches, because some of these are really close to that line, and I didn't want to cut it first and have to try and stitch there without catching the wrong spot. So when I go to cut this, I'll actually cut it 1/8 of an inch away from the line, so I have a little more leeway. Okay, the line is just where I need to stitch. Okay. That is basically how you do a hand stitching on fur, because, well, it's strong, and these stripes actually look really good.